Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, whether you're tuning in live right now or joining us via recording later on. We're really glad to have you with us. Welcome on behalf of the Academic Managers Special Interest Group, the AMSIG group. We're so excited to have Mark Rooney with us today for a fantastic and very relevant topic. Before we dive into the really good stuff here, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which we meet on today, and I pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Last week was NAIDOC week. I was very lucky to be part of a smoking ceremony and to be welcomed to country, which was so special. For me, that is a Wabakal country in Newcastle. And I hope you also got a really good chance to listen and learn and celebrate your respective First Nations cultures, wherever you're zooming in from today. Mark Rooney is with us today. We're so excited. It is my pleasure to introduce him now. Mark Rooney is the Senior Academic Program Manager for Diplomas at Monash College. And he's also worked there as a learning skills advisor and teacher developer at Monash College English. His current interests include managing initiatives to achieve maximum impact and focusing on humanistic approaches to teaching. And this is also where Mark will be taking us today in his session, Making Your Initiatives Go Viral. We encourage you to use the Q&A function throughout. Drop any questions, any reflections in there as they come along. There'll be plenty of time at the end for a Q&A, so we can all pick Mark's brain. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll hand it over to you, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Magdalena, and hello everyone in the AMSIG. I think the perfect audience for the message I will be communicating today, which is how to make your initiatives go viral. I'm hoping this is going to equip leaders or future leaders with the strategies to ensure that their ideas, even if they're campus-wide, department level, even classroom pilot projects, gain traction, stick, and deliver a lasting impact for your learners and colleagues. Oh, hang on. So let me move on. So I'm calling this one initiatives. So how can we make our initiatives go viral and not projects? Because a lot of what I'm going to talk about today, you might think, oh, this is quite like project management sounding. And it is in some ways, but I think project management can be a bit scary for some people. You start thinking of Gantt charts, budget blowouts, specialist managers coming in, high pressure. And I don't want to think about or talk about it in that sense. For me, an initiative are strategic direction within your area, cultural change pieces with a focus on outcomes, not just the task lists that make the outcomes happen. So think of projects that you have had or will have in the future that require buy-in, voluntary action from staff, and cultural change within the organization. I also think initiatives is broad enough to cover everything from institution-wide reforms down to a teacher trying to change the culture in their classroom. So what kind of initiatives would you like to go viral? I think it's quite broad in some of the things I'm talking about today. I've put on some of the ones that you might think about in your organization. For example, introducing after-class workshops for students. That's something you want to get up and running and to be successful. Getting teachers to incorporate Gen AI into lessons. I think that's happening in a lot of places now. Introducing new assessments, a smartphone policy in the school. Team teaching is something you want to get up and running. Learning skills advisors, you want to increase the uptake there. Introducing and incorporating a new teaching framework. Introducing learning analytics dashboards into your school. And more. So I want you to think about some initiatives you've been involved in the past, or some you're planning to do in the future. And as I go through the stages of the framework I'm going to look at today, think about how much the things I talk about are relevant to the projects you had in the past or the future. And if they were failures in the past, think about if the things I'm talking about today could have mitigated that failure. And a lot of them might have failed. And I'm not being hyperbolic about that, but the truth is most projects fail. This is some information from the Standish group and the Chaos report. Now, Standish look at IT projects, but trust me, these statistics are pretty universal in all projects, in all disciplines, and in all industries. So in the Standish project, they found 30% of projects are successful. 20% just outright fail. They're absolute disasters. They don't finish. They don't get anywhere near their goals. And most projects, so 50% of projects, are challenged. That means they're completed over budget or under scope. And I think this is one we've all been involved in. We have a project, we have a goal, and at the end we say, oh, we finished the project, has successful, but our goals were not really achieved. And what the project ended up being was nowhere near what we started off with it wanting to be. And we sort of moved the goalposts in our favor as the project went forward. So it's a well-studied field. We're pretty sure that most projects are not successful. And we kind of know why. So these are some of the leading reasons why projects, initiatives are not successful within organizations. Common across all research is that projects or initiatives there's ambiguity around the goals and the objectives. People aren't sure exactly what it is they're supposed to be doing or exactly what it is they want to achieve or you want them to achieve. Also really common, and this has been my experience, you're working in an organization that have competing initiatives, competing for people's time, attention, money, buy-in. So in an organization that's really ambitious, this can be a common problem, that you're competing for time and space with other people. Initiative fatigue. People have been in an institution long enough where someone new comes in with these great initiatives, but they've been there for 10, 20 years and they've seen 100 initiatives go through and people just aren't willing to buy in anymore. They've had enough initiatives, they're tired. This will go into the next area, which is a lack of buy-in. Now, the lack of buy-in can happen at all different levels. If you're at a mid-level, a lack of buy-in from your superiors can be death to a project, or a lack of buy-in for the people on the ground level can be death to your project. So you can have a lack of buy-in at different areas in the institution that can really compromise your initiatives. Inaccurate time or budget estimates should be no surprise there. We get this wrong all the time. My favorite fallacy, and I have lots of fallacies I don't like, is the planning fallacy. Such study shows that people say, okay, how long is it going to take you to do your project? 6 months. Well, you know, data shows us that similar projects in similar institutions take a year. Okay, it'll take me 7 months. And it will take you a year, because people always look at the base rate. Whatever it took the other group, it's probably going to take you the same amount of time. But time and again, we say, yeah, I can do it quicker. We always believe we can do it quicker, and we never can. So beware of the planning fallacy and inaccurate time and budget estimates. And the other area where projects typically fall down is the lack of necessary resources, time, money, technology, people. These things compromise a project. So these things are well studied. We know about them. And the truth of it is, too many great ideas within an organization become damp squibs. And what I want us to do today is find a way to help a culture in your organization where good ideas become good initiatives, are successful, and go viral. So we want projects that explode. Blow your hands off. So, viral. What do I mean by projects going viral? Well, I'm going to say my conviction is that good ideas can go viral in the right environment. And some of the key principles of that are that ideas spread because of people. It's people that make ideas and initiatives work. So you should shape your project around human behavior and what we know about human behavior. And one of the things we know is that humans are generally wired for efficiency. It's like homeostasis. They avoid doing things more than they need to keep things in balance. You could say humans are lazy, or you could say humans are smart. They don't waste energy on things that are not beneficial for them in the medium or long term. So one of the things I'll talk about throughout this presentation is eliminate and reduce off-ramps for engagements. Now, off-ramps are opportunities for people to disengage from the initiative. If your initiative requires voluntary buy-in, you have to make sure you give them less opportunities to say, I'm not going to do that. It's too hard, it's too confusing, it's too tricky. So we need to eliminate the off-ramps for people in our projects. So there's going to be 5 stages in the viral process: vision, inspiration, resourcing, assisting, and learning. And I'm going to talk through all of them in detail. And I'm going to say the first one's the most important, the second one's the second most important, the third one's the third most important, and so on. Because if you get the first one wrong, the second one won't work. If you get the second one wrong, the third one won't work. So projects are very difficult to get right, but you have to get them right at every stage. If you get it wrong at the first stage, you're not going to fix it in the third and fourth stage. And as I go through, keep initiatives in mind. Past ones that you were in that were successful or unsuccessful, and possible ones that are on the horizon that you might be in charge of delivering. Think about how or if you can follow through on some of the advice I'm giving in this session. All right, so have that initiative or initiatives in mind. Let's look at our first stage, which is the vision stage, the first stage. I'm going to start off by saying, if you want your idea or initiative to go viral, it has to be hooky. Now, hooky ideas are ones that are easy for people to understand as quickly as possible and to hook them in so that, okay, yeah, you've got me. Tell me more. I want to know more about this project. So hooky ideas stick. They're easy for people to assimilate. Detailed complex action plans or long frameworks generally don't go viral because they're too complicated or too big and they're not hooky enough. So you want ideas that is easy to grasp. Okay, I understand what you mean. Easy to share. People can talk about it easily and the reference is really quickly. You know that project on X? Oh yeah, I know about that and what's expected in it. It's easy to see where it leads. Okay, I know what this is doing and I know where they want me to go. It's pretty easy to imagine where this could be in 5 years' time. And also, is it easy to build upon? By that one, I mean, if I give them the nucleus of the idea, is it quite easy for stakeholders to go, yeah, and we could bolt that on and we could do that and we could do that. So is it easy for them to ideate around your original idea? So this is the vision stage to get these things across. But beware of the off-ramps. So what are the off-ramps? And remember, off-ramps are opportunities for people to say, nah, not doing it, too hard, too confusing. Why should I do this? So the off-ramps in the early stage, I've listed them here. Ambiguity. If they don't know what you're talking about, they're out. They're going to disengage from the project. It's too hard. Why do I have to do all the thinking to understand this idea vomit you've given me? I'm disengaging. Complexity. Yeah, this is quite confusing and it's hard for me to imagine it. I don't know what this looks like in the long run. Your language is inconsistent. You say one thing here, I don't know what that means. Me and her don't agree on what you're talking about here. We're out. Lack of credibility. You come out with a project and they go, why are we doing this? I don't see how this benefits me or the students or the institution. This project smells like your KPI. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to really help you achieve your KPIs this year. I'm out. Off ramp. Invisibility. So, okay, that seems like a good idea. Yeah, that was a good idea. 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, what happened to that thing Mark talked about in that meeting that we were going to do this year? I can't remember what he's going to talk about. I was hooked, and then you disappeared. I'm out. I'm out. I feel betrayed by your lack of visibility on this project. So those, I think, are 4 key areas at the launch of your initiative where people can off-ramp. So how can we reduce off-ramps in that vision stage of your project rollout? Okay, I've got a few of them here. I'll go through them quickly. And as I go through them, think of past projects that have failed or have been successful or a future project and think about, did these things happen or could you do them? So clarity. Is your project in the early stages? Is it clear to everyone why the initiative is being introduced? So that's going to address your ambiguity and credibility. Is there a concise, well-defined statement explaining what the initiative is? Can you write it on the back of a postage stamp? Can you put it on a poster in your staff room? Yeah. So is the project very clearly defined by a good statement? Uh, is the initiative statement widely shared, easily accessible, and clearly visible to all stakeholders? Back to the poster again. Can you put that poster in the staff room? Yeah, everyone knows that's the initiative we're building towards over the next 6 months, and it's clear from the statement and how it's written what it means. Justification. Does everyone generally agree that the reasons for launching the initiative are valid and compelling? Okay, so have you got buy-in and credibility across the board? Roles. Has each stakeholder's role in delivering the initiative been clearly communicated right from the start? So is it clear to teachers what their role will be in this initiative at each step of the way? Is it clear to the admin people what their role will be in this initiative? Is it clear to your leaders what they will have to do at each stage of this initiative? Collaboration. Have multiple stakeholders been included in shaping and outlining this initiative? Not easy to do, and there's going to be a time trade-off there, but have you at least attempted to get people's collaboration and input into the project? Timeline. Is there a clear, realistic schedule or timeline for your initiative and its stages? So not just this has to be delivered in 6 months, but here's where we are in month one, month two, month three, month four. And the last one is the trade-offs. And this is the one I want to emphasize because it's the one I don't see a lot. When you roll out a project, it probably means some change. With that change is going to come opportunities, but there's going to be trade-offs. There's probably going to be challenges and losses with your initiative. Are you upfront about that? Have you communicated to everyone, all your stakeholders, here's what we think we're going to gain. Here's what we think will be a challenge or we'll lose, and we think it's worth the trade-off. Because if you don't talk about the trade-offs, you can be sure as hell they're thinking about them. And if they're thinking about them and they don't hear them from you, they're going to say, they haven't even considered the trade-offs. What a bunch of idiots. I'm out. Or they know the trade-offs, but they haven't got the guts to say them in public. Man, no credibility here. I'm off. That's an off-ramp for people. But if you're upfront from the start about the trade-offs, maybe you've got some of the trade-offs in that collaboration stage and you're upfront about it, I think that increases buy-in at that early stage. It's a step I think doesn't get reflected a lot in projects. All right, vision stage. That was the most important stage, but we've got the vision, we've got the buy-in, people are ready to go. The second most important stage is our inspire stage. So at this stage, we need to consider that inspiration fuels engagement. So we want some people to be really excited about this project because that will spread through people. Because enthusiasm is contagious, as is cynicism. We'll talk about that soon. Humans are mimetic. They copy each other. If they see one person doing it, or they might copy that person. If they see multiple people doing it, they very quickly say, oh, I've got to do it. And then if it gets to a tipping point, they all feel like they have to do it. So you want that idea to spread and that behavior to spread. You have to remember as well that humans are risk averse. They don't like taking chances, especially if they're going to get exposed for taking that chance. Therefore, I consider in your inspire stage, you have to think of self-efficacy. I like to lean on Bandura here. So self-efficacy is a person's confidence that they can do this thing, that it's within their control, and they can be confident that they will achieve this task. Bandura talks about 4 major areas that increase our self-efficacy. One is mastery experiences, which means I've done something like this in the past, so I can do this new thing, no problem. Okay, that some of your cohort can do that. But most importantly for you rolling out, vicarious experiences. People often go, I don't know if I can do that. Oh, he did it and she did it. Okay, if they can do it, I can do it. So you need for your idea to spread for people to see vicarious opportunities or other people being successful so they can say, okay, other people can do it, then I can do it. So that has to be in your culture of the rollout, sharing that. Verbal persuasion is another one. People convince other people to do things. So that's why you want opportunities for people to talk to each other about these projects. And the last one is affective states. It's their emotional well-being. Well, people will take chances and do things if they feel safe, if they feel supported, if they feel like they're not going to get called out for doing the wrong thing. Okay, so these are some of the things that you should consider when you get to the inspiration stage of lighting that fire in your cohort to take on this initiative. But there's off-ramps. Can't visualize. I can't see this thing you're talking about. Therefore, I can't be mimetic about it. Yeah, I can't copy what I can't imagine. There you go, can't copy because I can't see what the other people are doing. I can't vicariously learn from others. I'm off in my little silo trying to solve this problem on my own. Show me some other versions of success and then I'll launch off them. can't share. No, I've got this great idea, but I don't know if other people can, if I'm on the right track. Nobody else can talk about it. Nobody else can see my version of it, so I don't know if I'm on the right road. And can't be bothered. I'm not sure the effort is worth it. I'm risk averse here. If I get this wrong, or if I put lots of work in, how do I know I'm going to get rewarded, or it's going to get noticed, or I'm going to get any praise for it? Okay, so how do we support this stage in our project? Okay, obviously demonstrate. Have we clearly demonstrated what success looks like with practical evidence, internal and external examples? So for example, oh, you should all be using Gen AI in the classroom now. All right, fair enough. What does it look like? Give me some examples within my organization, but show me the best examples from the industry. It's our job as the leaders to collate that information, say, this is what success looks like. See, it's not that hard. Off you go. You can do it now. Instead of saying, I want to see you all using AI in your classrooms in the next 6 months and leaving it at that. It's our duty to show them examples. Which leads me to the next point, which I think is a really important one, seed. Have we provided concrete examples or models for stakeholders to learn from and build upon? And I think if I use the Gen AI example, we seed the course, the curriculum. Put some examples of what you want already in the curriculum. So already, without them having to do it, without them having to buy in and initiate it, they're doing it in the rooms. They're doing it themselves. So as much as possible, seed it in your curriculum or seed it in the workplace. This is exactly what we mean. This is an example of it. You can extrapolate from it. You can change it. It can look in different ways, but this is what we mean. I'll take the risk. That's what I mean. So you can agree with it or disagree with it, but I've taken the risk to say, this is what I think it should look like, and let people extrapolate and build on it from there. Benefits, have we shown stakeholders how the initiatives will benefit them? Have we held super spreader events where ideas can be shared and sentiment can be seen? Get the positive people in a room with the negative people and let that information spread between them. Really reward those who have taken the chance or are doing fantastic things. Let them put their name and imprimatur on it. Link to the next one. So have we established a system of updates and success stories? Are we constantly feeding back to the cohort? Here's some examples of how this initiative is being successful. Well done to these people. You guys have took this initiative up and ran with it. I just seeded it a little bit and you just made the fire spread. So as much as that as possible. And we can say the fire has started. People are along for the ride. Your initiative is bound to be successful. Unless you don't resource it correctly, unless you don't give people the tools they need to complete the work. So obviously, this is where things can go wrong for people. This is where your future initiatives die because you haven't got this stage. I'll just check everyone can still hear me. My computer went a bit nuts there.
We can
Yeah,
hear
we
you
can hear
again
you.
now.
Yeah,
Sorry about
we
that.
can't see you.
Oh, lucky you. Hang on.
Yep, you're back. We just got your slides again in the presentation mode instead of the actual view.
Yep, I can change that. All good. Can you see it now?
Yeah, getting there.
Yep.
It's a widescreen for me.
See, this is what happens when you don't equip people. I think we should be right now.
Yeah.
What can you see? Can you see my slide or my presentation?
Presentation view.
And there we go.
Yes, we're back. Perfect.
Okay, sorry about that. No idea. Monash is not giving me the correct resources for my initiatives to be successful. So as I was saying, Give people the right resources for the initiative to be successful, because if you have people on the hook, they were enthusiastic, they really wanted to get it done, they were willing to take a risk to do this thing, but then you don't give them the equipment, the time to do it, then you've completely betrayed them. And this is where they will become cynics. You will never get them involved in a future initiative. So if you've got them on the hook, you've lit the fire and you let them down at the resource stage, you are compromising all future initiatives, not just for you, but for your entire institution. The off-ramps, no time, no tools, no training, okay? You haven't given them the time, you haven't given them the software that they needed to do it, you haven't given them the support to be able to do the task that you want them to do. As I mentioned, this is where cynics are made. If you have a project and the cynics are compromising it, not letting it happen, you might think they're annoying and they're just cynics, but maybe they've been let down in the past, that they bought into several projects in the past only for them to collapse halfway through and for them to get blamed for it. So think about that. So some of the hurt people in your project group might have been betrayed by past resources. It's also by past projects, which is why it's so important for you to get your projects right, because you're not just making your project successful or your initiative successful. All future initiatives are dependent on how well you can get this culture of successful initiatives within your organization. So my tips here are pretty obvious. Do people have enough time to implement the initiative? Have you given them enough time and not put them under pressure and set them up for failure? Tools. Have you given them the right tools to complete the initiative? That could be software, that could be a lab, that could be access to the right people. And have you given them the training? Have you told them to do this thing, left them alone, and then given out to them that they haven't done it correctly when you didn't give them the right information they needed to be successful? Which is linked to our second last area, which is assist. If you're leading this project, don't go missing. If you've lit the fire in people, it's on you to touch base with them, to support them all the way through. Give them feedback on their work. Schedule times when you can follow up on questions and requests in a timely manner. If you've wanted someone to use Gen AI in their classroom and then they've done all these cool things and have got questions for you and you leave them hanging for 2 weeks, you're compromising your own initiative. You have to be there to assist them, to keep them alive, to keep the thing going viral. Show them that the project is still important today as it was at launch. I think this is where we go wrong a lot. We start a project, everyone's really excited, start an initiative, you go, okay, that's good. I've got that initiative going. I can tick that off of my KPI. What's my next initiative? But downstream, the people you got involved in that are your stakeholders, and they feel, oh, Mark's moved on to something else. Ooh, wait. He got me all excited, and then where is he now? I feel like this initiative is just another one of his KPIs. We're back to a credibility argument. Off-ramps. Lack of momentum. Mark, you were all about me at the start. Where have you gone? Lack of follow-up. I haven't heard from you in a while. Are we still doing this thing? Is this still important, or was this just a fad? Lack of follow-through. You said you were going to have a catch-up in week 6, and I haven't seen you since Christmas. What's going on? Lack of feedback. I sent you some work last week, and you said looks good. But what do you mean looks good? I don't even know if I'm not doing the right thing. Can I share it with someone else? Can I get some proper feedback on this? So that assist stage is so important. I think people are really good at the start, and I think the leaders drift off in the middle, and as a result, all the stakeholders drift off in the middle. But the leader should have the same level of enthusiasm the whole way through. It's your responsibility to be as excited on day one as you are on the end day. Our last stage. Oh, sorry, our checklist for the assist. Is there an enthusiastic culture of support the whole way through? Feedback. Do stakeholders get feedback at every stage and followed up on their work? Praise. Are we positively reinforcing good work and effort throughout the project, all the way through? Have we informed stakeholders about our progress, failures, and successes all the way through the project to keep it alive? Final stage. Learn. And this is not about this initiative, it's about the next initiative and initiative after that and the culture of initiatives you have in your institutions. Of course, Initiatives need an endpoint, and it needs to be said, this initiative is finished now. The work we do might live on, but I think we can say, we said we would finish in December. Let's have some sort of party or celebration to finish in December to say this is done. Well, let's celebrate it, or have a post-mortem. What went wrong? What didn't work at that stage? And I think it's important to have post-mortems because it goes back to your credibility argument. If we launched this initiative and we got all the way through it and it didn't really work, but then we have this big party on the end and the leader says, yeah, well done, everyone, we achieved our initiative. A lot of people in the room are going to say, no, we didn't. This is nowhere near what we said we were going to do. We worked pretty hard. We did the best we could, but this is not successful by our own measures. They'll see through that. They'll see through your credibility, and they will think initiatives in future are not really what they say they are. They're just work that spans over a period of time, but the goals aren't that important. Failed or under-scope initiatives are not a dirty secret to be brushed under the carpet. They are more common than success. We've seen that in the statistics. So you shouldn't be ashamed if your project was under scope or failed to reach its initial targets. But you should talk about it. We should talk about, okay, this worked, that didn't work. What can we do better next time? It should be common practice to talk about failed initiatives until failed initiatives are not common practice. Okay, then we think, what are the chances for our future initiatives? So how can we get those to be implemented? How can we introduce these changes to future initiatives? So we move from a culture of openness to talking about failed initiatives to a culture of successful initiatives. At the end, future virals. We have to say at the end of our project, what was this all for? Why did we do this? People often go, where did that go? What happened to that project? Yeah, it was here, but it just sort of disappeared and nobody seemed to care about it very well. And we also need to be careful about that. This was great. People go, why are we pretending this went well? It didn't go well at all. Maybe you think you're protecting my feelings by saying this went well, but I think we're all grown up enough here to say this was successful in some ways, but we fell short in other ways, and that's worth unpacking because we all want to be successful in future initiatives, and we're not rare in our failure to reach all our measures because it is the common practice. So when you end your initiatives, obviously ask the question, did we achieve our vision and how did we fall short? Do that very publicly and very honestly. Carry this forward. What worked? What didn't work? What will always work? What will never work? When things didn't work, why didn't it work? Why not? Could it ever work? Yeah, could it ever work? Because sometimes you have to say, yeah, listen, it didn't work for us, and I've looked around, it doesn't really work for anyone. So maybe we need to let those kind of initiatives go, or those parts of those initiatives go. And the end value, was it worth it? We all put 50 hours into this thing. Has it had a measurable effect on what we said it was going to do? But also, has it had a measurable effect on morale, culture, particular areas? So do an analysis. Was it worth it? Because the next time the initiative comes around, yes, we can do it. Yes, we can be successful. But so what? Is it actually worthwhile doing that particular initiative? And when you start to ask that question more honestly, we'll have less initiatives. Therefore, we'll have less failed initiatives, we'll have less competition for initiatives, and we'll have a greater culture of success within organizations that have projects and initiatives that really meet their goals. So 5 stages: vision, what get people hooked in, inspire, really get them excited about it. Then resource, give them the tools they need to do it. Assist at every step of the way. You're there to support them through it, to make sure everyone can be as successful as they can be. Learn at the end of it. We don't brush mistakes under the carpet. We have a culture of honesty that we know that projects are not always successful. We'll learn from why this one wasn't, and within this organization, the next one will be successful. Here's all the checklists in one particular place. I've put them on a Google Doc, so there is the QR code if you want to use this checklist for any future initiatives you have coming up. See if you can go through these stages. Also, maybe look past some past initiatives, especially ones that didn't succeed, and say, could you honestly say you ticked all the boxes in this framework to say that it was successful? If you could, let me know, because I need to add more things to the framework. But have to be honest, I'd be surprised if we ticked all these boxes. If something didn't work, it would therefore mean it was maybe just not a good idea to start with. But I'm open to ideas on that. And I'm now open for some questions.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was amazing. So comprehensive, this model you've presented. At this stage, there's no questions in the Q&A or chat. Please don't be shy. We've got Mark with us here to pick his brain. If you want to raise your hand, pop it in the chat or in the Q&A. Mark can answer that for us. I have to say, I can't wait to have my first post-mortem celebration. That's great.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, it is. I think we've all experienced it, that initiatives that haven't really landed where we wanted them to land. And there's sort of a culture of shame around it. And I don't think there should be, because as I've said and mentioned, it's common. It's the most likely outcome of your initiative that it doesn't reach its target. But the more we have those postmortems, the more successful they'll be.
Yeah. Whilst maybe some other question, yeah, come in. Yeah, we've got something from Paula in the chat. Not a question, but a comment about the idea of off-ramps. Thanks for that. Really useful to have that in mind when planning the initiatives and how to present the different stages.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So the off-ramps are, I guess, they're a psychological concept that people won't, if people can find excuses not to do things quite easily, so kind of don't give it to them. And you'd all experience this yourself, where you'd say, you said at a meeting and it just gets a little bit too confusing or a little bit too vague. And in the cost benefit analysis, you said, well, I'm not going to do it then. Not always easy to get complex ideas into easy to understand hooky ideas, but I would recommend you try and do it as much as possible. And as you're sitting in meetings and initiatives, and the minute they become ambiguous and you find yourself, you're having to do all the work to understand it, think back to the virality of this project.
Great. There's a few questions come in now from Summer. Hi, Mark. How do you convince your leader of your ideas?
How do I convince the leader of the ideas? It's a good question. So the leaders, so that's assuming that we have leaders. I think you have those champions of projects at the start, those people who are going to be the ones who go out there to really spearhead your idea. Ways you can support them is obviously they should have some buy-in in it. They should have some collaboration in the shaping of the project. But I think this is something we mostly get right. You got 3 or 4 people who really buy in and we really support them. Yeah, you could do that. Let's have a meeting about this with these 4 or 5 people who are your initial viral agents, your super spreaders at the beginning of a project. You give them the idea, you make it clear and concise, you give them negotiation with how it makes, you make it look like it's their idea. So you might come in and say, this is what we could do. You give them the easy ground, the low-hanging fruit. How could we do this? You know how we could do this, but you let them say it, you let them buy it, you let them put it down, you give them little pointers on and say, this is great. Can you lead this thing on me? I think this is your vision to go through, and I'll support you all the step of the way. And that's why when it gets to the assist stage and the inspire stage, as much as possible, it's them doing all that, and you're sort of in the background being the puppet master. This all sounds quite cynical, but it's all about you as the higher level. Just it's not about you. It's not your project. You're letting other people run it through, and you're letting other people be the masters of it. But it is, yeah, it's convincing those early adopters.
Great, thank you. Next question we've got from Leanne. Mark, have you got an example of an initiative where you applied this successfully, where there are points at which things got sticky?
Yes, I've got lots. And a lot of the insights I've had here are projects that I didn't get to go viral because I didn't do some of the things I've done here. What I think has been really successful for me in projects, I'm starting to get off the ground or being successful here. So Gen AI or new assessment regimes, or at Monash, we're having to deal with larger class sizes or team teaching at the moment.
Mm.
We One thing that I found very successful is what I said about the trade-offs. So getting people in a room and saying, these are the opportunities and these are the trade-offs, and here's some of the mitigation things for the trade-offs. I think people automatically um, buy into that. They go, okay, this guy's an honest broker. He's not trying to pull the wool over my eyes. He's not saying. So, for example, if you have an initiative and there's a financial reason behind it, don't go out to people and say, we've got all these pedagogical benefits from doing it. Yes, we can, but you can't just say that there isn't a monetary value to it. So you have to be honest about that, and say that's one of the trade-offs that has to come into consideration. So you can't you can't manipulate people into doing things through dishonesty. You have the other things on the table. But the common ones, I'm sure we've all seen it. So not resourcing people correctly. Um, Sometimes you can be the leader of the project, and it's not your fault that it doesn't get resourced in the middle, but it happens, and I think you have to fight at that stage to get the resources to the people. But everything's interconnected. If you didn't have the buy-in at the early stages from the higher ups, then all of a sudden the project gets diminished at that stage. So that's why I say each stage is the most important as you go through, because the knock-on effects of not getting a tick in the vision stage only materialize in your assist or resource stage. That they come and bite you in the bum later on. Um, but yeah, so those are some of the projects that I've applied it to. But I would say all my career, I've done a version of this without some of the tick boxes, and I can tell you that I think I've about got it right with these ones. Sometimes it's out of your hands, but if you try and achieve all these, you'll get it right. Um, early vision stage is the challenge. The early vision stage is getting that vision and that statement out to everyone and sticking in their heads for a considerable amount of time. Too often it's an email on a Friday that people don't open, or it's in a report in a leaders meeting. And then you say, okay, I'll tell my leaders. And then you lose control of the message, and it filters down and filters down. And then 100 people have a different interpretation of what it is the institution wants to do. So getting it right at that stage is important. And seriously, it's as simple as a poster with a statement in a staff room.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you. Next question is from Clinton. When generating buy-in, do you use all four of those things like master experience, vicarious experience, etc., or is there one you find most effective?
I try and do them all. And in my teaching days, for those of you still in the classroom, I always thought of Bandura self-efficacy, because you can really see it in effect in the classroom, students taking risks. Mastery sort of takes care of itself, because if people already have the experience, they already have the experience, but you lean on that, or if possible, you raise their awareness of it. Say, and I remember that project you did last year. So if you can do that, you can do this. I would recommend everyone, the vicarious one is the big one, which is other people seeing other people doing it and then being successful at it. Sounds obvious, but it just doesn't happen enough, because people work in different shifts, people work in silos, people say something in the staff room, but they don't get to see the other people doing it. So vicarious is having just a swap shop, having a peer observation, just having a coffee where people bring a worksheet that they've all done to solve that certain problem. So that's the one I try and bring up the most, because it's the one I think doesn't happen organically as much as I'd like. So if you can provide opportunities, I think I call them super spreader events, any sort of event where people can be in a room and share their experiences on that thing, the better. It happens in staff rooms slowly, speed it up, create events where people bring those things and share it. Um, and then they just discuss it then. So the third level of persuasion just sort of happens in those rooms. And it can happen by the cynics are generally not sociopaths, generally. So when they notice everyone else is doing it. The critical mass kind of comes in and they feel, okay, if everyone else is bloody doing it, I'll have to do it as well. So those super spreader events and those vicarious sharing experiences have a multiplier effect across your cohort, for across the enthusiastics who get support to the cynics who get on board.
Mm. Okay, great. Thank you. We've got two more quick questions before we wrap up. Do you have any general tips to build buy-in from casual teaching staff who might not be as committed to new initiatives as full-time staff? Quite a related question.
Yeah, the first thing I'll say is that's not my experience, to be honest. But it depends on your initiative. If it's hanging around for a long period of time, okay, sessionals might not hang around on campus if you're not getting paid for it. But my experience has often been sessionals and casuals are often have greater buy-in because they're often less experienced and they've been through less initiatives. So it's sometimes easier to get them to buy in at the start because they haven't been burned and they're a bit more enthusiastic. However, if you have a situation where you're trying to get sessionals and casuals to buy in, I guess you have to bother the incentives for them. Honestly, sometimes it's just old school persuasion. Say, hey, old school charm. Hey, I really think this thing would be good for you. I think you're really good at this sort of Gen AI stuff. Would you be interested in doing this? I know you don't have any time. I know maybe next Wednesday if you could hang around for half an hour. I think the other contracted teachers would really benefit from hearing you at it. And I think then sessions start to feel important because their voice becomes centered in it. But I think that's a case by case one. It would depend on the initiative how I would give advice about how you can get sessionals to have buy-in. But I will say it's not always my experience that sessionals have less buy-in for initiatives. If it's getting them to stay in the building to do things unpaid, they have to get paid then in reputation, in future initiatives, in opportunities.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. And last question, what is the first kind of project to start with?
Well, I don't know. That's up to your institution. And I like the question, but I will say it's the wrong question because don't start an initiative just to start an initiative. There has to be a reason why you have initiatives. If you're starting an initiative because you want to go through the process, that's one of those, this is someone else's, I'm helping someone else's goals here. So I would say, what does your institution need? That's first of all. What is achievable? So obviously don't set it too high that you're going to set people up for failure. Look, do a mock checklist in your head. Say, yeah, we can definitely do that. We can definitely do that. Yeah, we'll be able to do that. When we get to the resourcing and assisting stage, yes, I can do that within 6 to 8 months. Those things can happen. Test the waters. You know your staff. Well, what's the chatter in the staff room? Is everybody sick of academic integrity issues? Okay, that's an initiative you could get off the ground. I think you'll have buy-in from that. Do teachers generally want to have better generative AI in the staff room, or the teachers have an appetite for a after-school club that you want to get up and running? So, read the rooms, see what you can get successful, but don't do an initiative for the sake of initiative. Do one that you're pretty confident can be successful and that there's an appetite for, and make sure it's one that you can go through this checklist. Maybe even if you have a checklist like this, go public with this checklist. And if you go through it and it's successful, your buy-in across the institution will be higher for your next initiative and your next initiative. And then they can progressively get more difficult and more hard. But a culture of successful initiatives, it's not easy, but it is attainable. So your first one should be a success.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing your time with us, sharing your wisdom with us, sharing all your resources with us. It's incredibly helpful and we really appreciate it on behalf of the AMSIG and everyone here and everyone who's going to watch the recording. Thank you, Mark. This was really valuable. Lots of insights, very comprehensive. If anyone has any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Mark, reach out to English Australia. Hopefully we'll all connect at the English Australia conference, which happens at the end of August. We hope to see you there. Thanks everyone for joining us today and have a great afternoon.
Thanks everyone.